Well, in the world of college football, the NCAA has denied Trinidad Chambliss' waiver for a sixth year.
The news of Ole Miss quarterback Trinidad Chambliss being denied a medical hardship waiver hit me like a truck because I have slacked on watching his film simply because I was expecting him to get that waiver. But now I have finally got through his tape. And while making this video was a little risky because he is appealing and suing the NCAA, and one of my videos is irrelevant now, I think Chambliss is one to watch come April. So let's dive into him as a prospect and see if he's worth a potential first-round pick. But before we dive into the film, let's mention Chambliss' inspiring journey to get where he is now. Chambliss played his high school ball at Forest Hills Northern in Grand Rapids, Michigan, where he did not receive any stars out of high school. He had no FBS offers and 3 D1 offers in total. He did have an offer from D2 powerhouse Ferris State though, and he decided to stay in-state by playing for them. He redshirted his freshman year and dealt with chronic tonsillitis during his redshirt freshman season, which is where the controversial waiver denial comes in. The NCAA will not grant him this waiver due to not having the required paperwork for it, apparently. Once he recovered though, he spent one more year as a backup before passing for 2,925 yards and 26 touchdowns, and rushing for over 1,000 yards and a ridiculous 25 rushing touchdowns as a redshirt junior. He was a finalist for the Harlan Hill Trophy, which is the D2 Heisman. With one guaranteed year left, Chambliss left for Ole Miss to be their presumed backup quarterback. But when Austin Simmons went down with an ankle injury in week 2, Chambliss had to step in and step up, and he did just that. He threw for just under 4,000 yards, 22 touchdowns, and only 3 interceptions, while running for 527 yards and 8 touchdowns. With Chambliss' 6th year of eligibility being denied, he now sits as the consensus QB4 in the 2026 NFL Draft. Fun history for Chambliss, and I'm very intrigued to see how his draft process plays out if this appeal also gets denied. With that being said, let's dive into the film. There's a lot to talk about with Chambliss, so there's no time to waste here. I want to begin with the arm talent because really, there's only one significant weakness that I have in this section, albeit it is a big one. And I'll start with that weakness, and that is a lack of consistent accuracy in the short and medium game. The intermediate game is actually where I get most of my concern, as in 2025 he completed 57% of his passes for over 1,100 yards, 7 touchdowns, and no picks. But he also threw 6 turnover-worthy plays in the intermediate game, a 5.6% clip. Of the 57 Power 4 quarterbacks with 50 or more passes in this game, Chambliss sits at 25th in turnover-worthy percentage, 35th in completion percentage, and 41st in adjusted completion percentage. This inconsistency is often seen on timing routes. He knows when he has to get the pass off most of the time. He puts the timing in timing routes, but it's just inaccurate. He'll miss high, he'll miss low, he'll miss completely where the defender can't even put a hand on the ball. The ball placement just needs improvement on this end of the game. And it gets even more confusing. His ball placement in the deep game is really good. I gave you the intermediate stats, so here are the deep stats. 51% completion percentage, 987 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. But the appealing bit is that he had 25 big-time throws in the deep game, which is tied with Dante Moore for the most in Power 4. 37.3% of his deep balls were big-time throws, the second highest in Power 4 only behind Moore. Compare this to only a 4.5% turnover-worthy play clip and you have yourself a deep threat. He's best throwing outside the numbers deep, where he can drop it in the cookie jar on go balls. Furthermore, his arm strength isn't game-changing, but it's clearly good. He can drive balls downfield on these go balls, but also zip passes through tight pockets in the short and intermediate game. Arm strength is something that is often a downside in smaller quarterback prospects. See Bryce Young, see Brock Purdy, even see Dylan Gabriel from last draft season. I'll dive more into his vitals later, but being only 6 foot and 200 pounds with a strong arm sets him apart. His ability to also make throws off balance is among some of the best in this year's quarterback class. It's not like Ty Simpson, where he clearly favors one way to throw off platform. Chambliss can throw accurately rolling left, rolling right, fading back, all of the above. And Chambliss is able to do all of this while still keeping good throwing mechanics. The release is smooth, the footwork is solid, the adaptability to his motions, it's all there. The one downside to his mechanics is that he does struggle to throw at different arm angles to weave around defenders, especially ones at the line of scrimmage. And that is a general downside to his arm talent. He throws with inconsistent heights on his balls. He'll throw low and see batted balls. He'll throw way high to the point where his targets can't leap to get the ball. I've already mentioned this with his anticipation, but the batted balls are especially an issue. He was third in Power 4 in batted balls in 2025, only behind another short quarterback in Gunnar Stockton and a freshman in Malik Washington. But overall, the arm talent is extremely appealing. For a guy of his experience, it's especially notable. But when we transition to discuss the mental traits of his game, the poise, the pocket presence, the reads, the decision making, and more, here's where I get a little more concerned to how he will translate over to the NFL. We'll begin with his poise and pocket presence, an up and down segment. And unfortunately, the more important trait of the two is the down. Chambliss's poise was honestly going to stick around the average grade at first, and that's better than the consensus. A lot of people see him unnecessarily bailing from clean pockets or struggling to throw under pressure. I would actually note that his lack of under pressure reps is what is more concerning, as he saw the 4th lowest rate of snaps under pressure in the Power 4 this season. But his ability to identify the pressure package is what I'm more concerned about. Him bailing from clean pockets mostly comes from when he's getting a blitz that he doesn't expect. And even if the blitz is going to get picked up, he just leaves the pocket. And even if it's the vice versa, where he doesn't see the blitz he was expecting, he forces the ball out quick. So it's less panicking under pressure and more panicking when he doesn't see the pressure he was expecting. But on the flip side, the potential is there because his pocket presence is very good. When he gets that expected pressure, he earns the confidence to maneuver around the pocket efficiently and quickly, either escaping to make a run or finding a spot where he can cleanly make a throw. The stats back this up. His 12.6% pressure to sack rate is well better than the average Power 4 quarterback, who gets sacked on 16 to 17% of pressures. He took only 14 sacks in 14 games. Furthermore, we see this pocket presence on designed runs, which might not make sense at first, but he's not running counter zones that often where he's following a lead blocker. He's doing it himself, trying to find a gap in the pocket, which is a good transition into a discussion about his mobility, which catches most people's eyes. He is an agile runner with great escapability behind the line of scrimmage, who turns into an explosive and speedy runner once he chooses to scramble. Remember how I mentioned he had 25 rushing touchdowns in one season with Ferris State? Some stats show his ability as a runner. He carried the ball 133 times with 14 sacks, but only 24 of his attempts were undesigned runs. He averaged 9.4 yards per carry on those undesigned runs. But this means that he was sent on a designed run 95 times in 2025, averaging nearly 7 of those per game. And it's clear why he was sent on so many designed runs. It's hard to make an entire segment about mobility because there really isn't much to talk about outside of the fact that he's got a well-rounded athletic profile with no true weaknesses in terms of speed. The reason his mobility isn't perfect is because of his vision. When he's sent on gap-designed runs, he often runs into his own guys or fails to see an open gap. In the open field, he does follow his blockers or use blockers to his advantage, but the vision still isn't perfect. So no, Chambliss is not a running back. He's just a very mobile quarterback. Let's go back to the mental traits and talk about Chambliss's decision-making and reads, where I have some controversial takes. First off, the statistic that many scouts point out as a positive is how he threw only 3 interceptions on 445 pass attempts in 2025. Even going back to his Ferris State days, he's only thrown 10 career picks on 845 career pass attempts. 10 Power 4 quarterbacks threw more than that this season alone. And yes, his decision making is pretty solid after the snap. He's rarely making head-scratching plays, and a significant number of the pass breakups that he threw were more good plays by the defense. His best decision making honestly comes from in the pocket. When he's flushed out due to pressure and has to extend the play out of the pocket, he is the playmaker archetype. Yet, there's always an although. The interception numbers might be deceiving, as he had 13 turnover-worthy plays in 2025 with only 3 picks. The TWP number is the 24th least of 56 Power 4 quarterbacks with 300-plus pass attempts, despite throwing the lowest number of interceptions of starting Power 4 signal callers by 2. For comparison, Dante Moore ended the season with 10 interceptions compared to Chambliss's 3, but they had the same number of turnover-worthy plays. Bo Pribula and Diego Pavia threw 9 and 8 interceptions respectively, but both of them had less TWPs than Chambliss. Only 23.1% of Chambliss's turnover-worthy plays turned into turnovers, while 75% of Pribula's did and 76.9% of Moore's did. Chambliss often forces passes into double and sometimes triple coverage when he's feeling a little too confident and tries to throw into a tight pocket that's a little too tight. Not sure I'm a fan of that, especially given that he will face more complex cover 2s and cover 3s in the NFL, where double teams may not be easy to diagnose. So don't let the interception number fool you. Chambliss is not this picture-perfect decision maker, especially when you take his reads into account. I think if you show the casual watcher how he reads the field, they would not be shocked that he only has 1 year of D1 experience. There are several concerns I have here. First, he often locks in on his first read, especially when the aforementioned blitz backoff happens. He gives his target away before he delivers the pass, allowing the defender to close in quicker. And while he showed flashes of using his eyes to deceive the defense and turn guys away from his one read, he doesn't do that often. Several quarterbacks were primary one-read guys in college and ended up succeeding in the NFL, including Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert. Others did not, like Mitchell Trubisky and Justin Fields. I only mentioned Herbert because I thought he was Trubisky 2.0, and clearly I was wrong. Nonetheless, forcing passes to your first read is going to be a major weakness. The second major concern is how he doesn't notice when pressure is backing off and fails to improvise when he doesn't get the pressure he wants, which I've already mentioned. Once again, it's less panicking under pressure and more panicking when he doesn't see the pressure he wanted. But let's get back into positive territory and discuss what I see as his best trait. As I've mentioned, and as it became obvious in the Georgia playoff game, Chambliss is the playmaker archetype, and his off-script capabilities are just wow. I have a thing for playmaking prospects who can make plays once they're flushed out of the pocket and have to reset and find new ways to make a play. But I'm not the only one who loves these. 2025 number 1 overall pick Cam Ward, playmaker archetype. 2024 number 1 overall pick Caleb Williams, playmaker archetype. 2023 number 1 overall pick Bryce Young. He wasn't really the playmaker archetype in college, but he's turned more into one in the NFL. The process here is very simple. First, he has to get out of the pocket, so he uses his great mobility and legs to escape and extend the play. Second, he keeps his eyes downfield and doesn't automatically tuck it and run. I saw this as a concern with Jaden Daniels, another guy who has nice off-script capabilities. But Chambliss keeps those eyes downfield, and finally, he uses great patience and off-platform accuracy to deliver off his script. Case closed, Chambliss is a phenomenal playmaker, and that, in my opinion, is the trait that brings his stock up greatly. One more section for Chambliss, which I want to discuss his vitals, and if you are new to the channel, those are his medicals, his measurables, his age, and his production. His medical history is nothing to be too concerned about, even with the context that he missed an entire season due to chronic tonsillitis and the associated medical hardship waiver was denied. He hasn't missed any other significant time since then, and it's been 3 full seasons. The first major issue pops up in his measurables. He's currently listed at 6 feet tall, 200 pounds. In terms of other NFL quarterbacks, that height is in the 7th percentile and the weight is in the 3rd percentile. 2 concerning numbers. If he measures under 6 feet at the combine, this grade will get worse. Furthermore, Chambliss is an older quarterback prospect. He is 23 years old and will turn 24 before the NFL season starts. If he gets his 6th year, this grade gets worse. And finally, I'm not denying that Chambliss had a good year. but only spending 1 year in Division I as a whole is going to bring the production grade down a bit. That's the end of our film session, or I guess that ended before the vital section, but you get the point. It's time to conclude our discussion on Trinidad Chambliss. Chambliss is a playmaker with several good traits that NFL teams are bound to be interested in. He's got the deep ball, he's got the pocket presence and the athleticism, he's got the arm strength and the mechanics. It makes sense why Chambliss succeeded swiftly at the D1 level. But some of the numbers are deceiving, and with him being nearly the polar opposite of a prototypical quarterback, he has some hurdles he has to cross if he wants to be a starter. But I have optimism that he could make the jump the same way he made the jump from Ferris State to SEC ball. Here's my draft graphic on Chambliss. He has a lot of collegiate Russell Wilson in his game, and he could honestly end up being drafted around the same spot, which would be the early 3rd round, and that's the grade I have on him. Again, I have optimism for Chambliss, so don't let this early 3rd round grade fool you. But nonetheless, I don't think he's that great of a quarterback prospect. What do you think of Chambliss? Does he have a shot of being a 1st round pick? Let me know in the comments below, and go vote on my YouTube community poll. Thank you for watching my detailed scouting report on Ole Miss quarterback Trinidad Chambliss.